Hello and welcome to week 2 of the first ever CAS Virtual Showcase. You've joined the first webinar of the day entitled Isaac Computer Science. This webinar is part of the CAS Virtual Showcase, which is a 2-week window of webinars designed to support the CAS community. I'm Wendy McLeod and I am the CAS Community Outreach Manager for communities across London and the East of England. Joining me this morning is the presenter of our session, Diane Dowling. Diane is part of the Isaac Computer Science team. Before joining the team this year, she was head of A-level computer science at a large sixth form college in the Southeast. In her spare time, Diane is a trustee of a charity, Student Robotics, that runs an annual autonomous robotics competition for 16 to 19-year-olds. Diane is passionate about computer science and in supporting educators to engage and enthuse students. During the session, please use the question window on the right-hand side of your screen to ask questions. All attendees are in listen-only mode. The top of the window has an orange rectangle which can be expanded or collapsed. If using social media, the hashtag for the event is hashtag CAS Virtual 20, and we'd love to hear your feedback on our sessions. I'm now going to hand over to Diane for the session.
Thank you, Wendy, and good morning, everybody. So, yeah, Wendy's already said there is all to say about me. I have my dream job working for the Raspberry Pi Foundation and a chance to sort of spread the word about computer science across the country. And so what I'm going to do today is give you an overview of Isaac Computer Science. So hopefully you can all see the presentation on the screen. So I think if anyone's got a problem, if you type, Wendy will sort you out. So I'll get started. So let's just, okay. So Isaac Computer Science was launched more or less a year ago, so late July 2019. And I'm just going to show this little video just to give some context to the project and what it's all about.
I don't think we have any sound, Diane, for the video, unfortunately.
I'm listening to it really nicely. Okay, right, rather than sort that out, we'll just leave it because it's not actually that important, really. It was just a nice little starter. I'll tell you what it says, and actually I'm going to cover most of it anyway. So yes, so the Isaac Computer Science project then is funded by the DFE as part of the whole Let's Get Computer Science Taught Throughout the Curriculum initiative that was spearheaded by Computing at Schools. And I was actually involved with CAS many years ago in its early days when it was very much campaigning to get computer science on the curriculum. So it's great for me to actually see this come to fruition, and right from reception to A-level students having the opportunity to learn computer science. So Isaac Computer Science is very much aimed at the A-level part of the specification. Although if you are a GCSE teacher, you may well find things on the platform really useful for you as well. So we're going to have a little look at some of those things in a moment. We obviously have targets to meet from the DFE, and we're meeting them very comfortably. These statistics were from May, and we've had about just over 16,000 students registered on the platform, and that's registered, not people. You can use the platform without registering. So these are people who've actually set up accounts, and almost 2,000 teachers we've actually enrolled. We're more than 1,900 now. The content, basically there's sort of 3 of us in the team that develop the content. but quite a lot of the content was written by contractors in the early parts of the project. I didn't actually join Isaac Computer Science, or didn't join the Raspberry Pi Foundation until August last year. So we weren't really up to speed as a team until September. The platform is created and supported by the University of Cambridge. So everything sort of technical about the platform is facilitated by them, and was mirrored another program called Isaac Physics, and hence Isaac Computer Science. Okay, so if we look at Isaac Computer Science then, and I'll go over these 4 areas. The main part of it is content, so we'll look at that in a moment. And at the moment, it's mapped to the specification of the 2 main exam boards, AQA and OCR. Obviously, EDUCAS, which is the kind of part of the WJEC that does UK qualifications, has got a small number of centres. The syllabus is fairly close to AQA anyway. And then there's some other things like obviously BTEC computer science and things, but most of the content is probably quite relevant and quite useful, whichever exam board you use. Yeah, so I'm also going to talk about questions, the questions we have on the platform, and events and competitions. So first of all, let's have a look at the content. So I've put there, let's have a look. I can probably do that without clicking on the link. So let's just go to the top. I'll just go to the home page. Okay, now the video I was going to show you is actually on the home page here. So if you do want to watch it, you can just watch it yourself here. So this is what people get if they search for Isaac Computer Science, or increasingly actually, if you search for a topic and A-level, Google will quite often show you Isaac Computer Science as one of the options on the home page. And I said you don't have to register, you don't have to log in. So you could access a lot of it without doing that. And I'll explain to you the advantages of registering in a moment. One of the advantages of not logging in is that you do see the content for both exam boards. So if you want to see other content, or if you're not aligned to one of the exam boards, sometimes you might choose not to log in because you can actually see more things sometimes. But you'll obviously see things that are irrelevant to your spec. So if I click on topics and all topics, these are the topics that we have. Because we are mapping to 2 exam boards and they title things slightly differently, some of the things won't necessarily match exactly what you think, but we do have, no, not there. We do have specification view. So here, if you're looking for something and you think, I've got no idea which of these headings it's under, then if you click on the particular specification view, every subtopic is hyperlinked back to one of the main topics. Okay, so if we picked a topic, I'll just sort of pick a topic at random. Okay, so we'll look at the internet. So the internet's on both specifications. And what you can see here is this is very much like a textbook. So, there's a lot of words. There are tabs. So, yeah, these are pages. So we can look at structure of the internet, IP addresses, domain name system. And again, we try and make these kind of generic in terms of topic headings. This is the bit where if you're signed in, you may well see different content. So if we look here, this is OCR, and you can see we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. And if I click on the drop down here and change it to AQA, it's still got 7 pages. That wasn't a great example, but some of them will have substantially different pages depending on the topic. If you're signed in, you'll only see the ones that are relevant to your exam board. Now, if we look at a particular page, I'll just click on a particular page. So this is about TCP/IP stack. And hopefully we will see some pictures. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so we can see, we've got some diagrams. What we don't have at the moment is any animation on this part of the platform, and that's something which will be coming over the next year. So our first mission was to get all of the content on there to make sure that teachers and students had access to the whole specification. That is complete. It was completed at Easter. And now we're moving into the optimization stage. And part of that is trying to make the content more engaging. We've already had some feedback that there are a lot of words. We like to explain things thoroughly, but clearly that might be, maybe a little bit over the top for some students that don't, particularly like reading. Hopefully teachers will find it really interesting. So this is the content then, the main content. So let's go back. Yeah, so yes, what I was going to say is if you're a GCSE teacher, again, let's just go back to the top here, you will see here that we've got a set here of GCSE to A-level transition topics. So these are topics that exist on the GCSE and also exist on the A-level. So there is a bit of overlap. So if you look at Boolean logic and you look at Boolean logic here, and you look at Boolean logic here under computer systems for A-level, you will see that some of the things are explained, you know, in two different ways. But clearly, if you look at something like logic gates here, the logic gates are only the ones on the GCSE syllabus. Whereas if you go to the A-level topic, you will see there are more logic gates because A-level students need to know about more of them. But as I said, if you're a GCSE teacher, you might find this useful. And certainly if at the moment you're home teaching and maybe setting work for year 11s going into year 12, then hopefully this will be really useful. So as A-level topics, we split them roughly, again, if I just go back here. So the headings, so we've got GCSE to A-level transition, and then the sort of theory topics, some of which are more theoretical than others. So things like architecture are obviously pure theory, but if you look at things like data structures and algorithms, then clearly you could be a bit of an argument, well, that's to do with programming. The programming is the stuff which is more purely stuff that you do in practical lessons with students. So you can see here that we've got fundamentals of programming, programming paradigms, and here we can see an example of a whole topic that is AQA only. So OCR don't have functional programming at all, so there's no sort of split content for that. Same here with big data, AQA only, number systems is AQA only, but here GUIs is OCR only. So I think that's the only thing, yeah, for OCR. And then we've got a section here on the practical project, that's the NEA, and again is mapped cleanly between the two exam boards. This is an area where there is difference. So for example, here we can see for AQA, we have a section on the technical solution. But if we look at OCR, yeah, you can see here, it's got very different emphasis for OCR. So there's a completely different set of content. So at this point, you do need to make sure that you're either signed in or that you do access the correct material from the tab. Okay, so let's just move on here. Okay, so obviously there's a whole load of content, a lot of stuff explaining things, completely mapped to the specification. So the real advantage of using our content is that everything they need to know is covered, and we don't cover anything that they don't need to know, I said, unless you sort of stray into one of the other exam board topics. Now, the other thing is assessment. And this again, you know, is where we think that Isaac Computer Science is great, hopefully. So we've got two types of questions, or two main groups of questions. The first ones are quick questions, and these are ones that appear throughout the content. Now, this is on our optimization list, so not all topics currently have quick questions, and some topics have a lot of them. So I'm going to show you one that does, and hopefully that'll give you a taste of, you know, things that will be coming shortly. So if I just open that new tab. Okay, so if we look at a quick question, just bear with me a moment. Okay, so here's a topic here. So we're looking at fixed point form binary numbers and the skill of converting fixed point binary to denary. So here we've got a worked example with steps that sort of show the students how to convert something from unsigned fixed point form. Okay, now having looked at the steps, this has only got 2 steps, it's not particularly complex. We've got a quick question here. So convert this number to denary and then show answer. And here is the answer, but also you can see here is the working for the answer. That one wasn't too long. Let's just see if I can find another one here. Yeah, this is a longer method. Much longer method. Okay, so let's look at this one here. So this is the opposite way, converting a denary fractional number to an unsigned fixed point binary number. And again, here's the answer, But if they don't get the answer right, then we've got the method here, again, mapped completely to that actual question. So gradually, we're adding now quick questions to the platform. The quick questions always have the answer and the workings. The end of topic questions don't have the answers. Now, this is quite contentious, I think, for some people. It is based on research that actually it's better not to provide the answers, but to provide feedback to enable the students to reach the answer. But certainly if you're doing this with your students, you may well want to work ahead of them and make sure that you have the correct answers, so that, you know, if you feel that you want to provide the students with the answers or help them more, that you have the answer set. But we don't actually publish the answers to these. So if we looked at a question, again, look at a particular thing, I don't know, floating point form. Sorry, look at the questions now. So let's look at this one here, put the numbers into order. Okay, so this question here tells the students that the numbers are represented in 2's complement and they have to put them into order. Now, this is an example of a Parsons question. And with a Parsons question, what they do is they drag and drop the available items into the answer area. They have hints, the questions. So if we look at hint one is actually always just a definition, or sometimes more than one definition. So in this instance, to remind they're told they're 2's complement numbers, and it just reminds them what a 2's complement number is. Just a moment. Okay, hint 2 is a clarification of the question. So what we do is we state the question in a simpler form. Obviously, in this instance, there's not much clarification, but sometimes if they're heavily contextual, we actually pick out the kind of guts of the question. We remind them what information is given. And here, just notice the typo, we have hyperlinks to the topic, you know, if they want to go back and visit the topic to review it. We have 3 main types of questions. So Parsons problems, we use those a lot for coding questions where they have to sometimes given lines of code and they have to drag and drop them into order. Multiple choice, I'm going to just go to multiple choice question. Okay, so here's a multiple choice question. So here they've been asked to work out the value of a variable. They've been given some pseudocode, and then they have to just pick from a list of answers what the answer is. I haven't actually done that, but if we look at check my answer, yeah. So here, they've got the answer incorrect, but they get some feedback here. So they're told here that the outer loop repeats 4 times from 0 to 3. So it doesn't give them the answer because what they're asked is what the value of this is. They have to trace this through, but they've been given some kind of clue. Now, what we do as a team is every month we review the common wrong answers to these questions. So we look and we sort of say, oh, you know, 80% of students are answering 8 to this question. And we look at the feedback we're giving and we see if we can improve the feedback. Sometimes we might be thinking, well, why are they thinking that's the right answer? And if we can't work it out, you know, we sometimes have like, you know, quite long debates and involve other people. And then we try and tackle the misconception either by improving the feedback or sometimes by improving the content, because we realize that we haven't actually explained something that students are falling into a particular trap. Now, this question, as well as having hints 1 and 2, has a video hint, and probably about 80% of the questions have video hints. Now, I won't play this because I'll probably get the same problem with the sound. But you can see here that these little video hints are made for us by Craig and Dave. Some of you might know Craig and Dave. And in this instance, oops, you can see here, I'll pause it a moment because you won't be able to hear it. But you can see here that we've got like almost 5 minutes worth of video. I don't know if I can just, no, I won't bother. But I mean, you could obviously go onto the platform and watch these. But these are quite nice because these are real explainers. So, you know, you could use this in class. You know, you could actually, they don't give the answers either, okay, but they do talk through that particular question. So, students could look at the video and then do the question, if you wanted them to actually get a bit more input before they do the question, rather than using it as a hint afterwards. And there's loads of these videos on the platform. So they're always hint 3 on a question.
Diane, we have a question that's come in.
Yeah, good.
Yes, this is from, and another one now. This is from Sandra, and she asks, is it possible to pick out AS topics?
Yes. I like it when I can say yes. So if I go to topics, and if you go to specification view, I'll just pick AQA. You'll see here they are mapped by AS level and A2 level. So go down there. Okay. Okay. So you can pick them out from here. Yeah, I can sort of understand the subtlety in the question, really. The problem comes, I think, where some of the topics are obviously both. And maybe there's a little bit more extension. We don't actually, because of the problems with the 2 exam boards and the fact that some topics are AS for OCR and some are AS for AQA, we don't actually flag the content as AS or A2, because it is quite problematic. We have looked to see if we can do that, but it's really, really hard. And we don't really want to have 2 versions of the same page because it gives us a maintenance issue. So really the best thing you can do really is kind of use this mapping and go through and maybe direct students to look at particular sections. We are looking at leveling the sections in terms of difficulty, but this is probably the best we can do, and we have this for both AS and OCR.
And there's another question, which you may be covering shortly, but I'll just read it to you. This is from Lily. She asks, can teachers see how their students are doing in the online questions and tests?
Okay, so I will be covering that in a moment. You can't see how they're doing with the questions on the platform unless you set them as an assignment. So if the students tackle them independently, you don't have any access to that. But if you set the questions as an assignment, which we're going to look at in a moment, then you certainly will get to see how they're doing. You don't get to see their wrong answers. So I think depending on, how you work as a teacher, you might want them to, maybe make notes. So if you're setting this as independent work, you might want them to, make notes of, things they tried or things they had problems with, because you'll only get like their final outcome. They got the question right or they got the question wrong. But we'll see that in a moment. So hopefully that will help. Is that all the questions for now, Wendy?
One more. It's also to do with answers. Tracy writes, can teachers see the answers to the game board? So, for example, we could provide additional support if a student still doesn't get it after 2 to 3 hints.
Okay, I think this is literally the most controversial bit of Isaac for me, because I was a teacher who always gave, when I was teaching, I always gave the students the answers as well as the questions. Like for any homework, I always gave them the answers, because I felt that it was really useful for them to be able to work to get that right answer. But there is a lot of research which actually says that isn't helpful. So the answer is no. The only way you as a teacher can give them the answers is to do the questions yourself ahead of them, and then you provide the answers if you want to, but we don't provide the answers. We do very occasionally, actually. I mean, if you email in because you really can't get the right answer, we will give them to you. Obviously multiple choice, you just have to keep clicking, you'll see the right answer, but where there are answers that you have to type, if you can't get the right answer, certainly use the platform and email, and sometimes we'll actually tell you the answer. Sometimes we just give you another hint. It's like playing God, isn't it? One of the problems with self-marking questions is obviously you have to anticipate absolutely everything that a student might type in as an answer. And I had one just last week where it was from a teacher, actually. They said, like, I really can't get this question right. And it's because they were asked to complete a line of code, and what they'd done was they'd actually typed the whole line of code. So they were completely correct, but the platform wasn't picking it up as correct. Now we can add those as correct answers. This is why we always review what people are writing in as the answers. So we actually get like a massive report every month of every wrong answer that anybody has typed, which we plow our way through.
Brilliant, thank you.
Is that all right?
Yes.
Any more? Okay. Do feel free, because helps me. Okay, so that's content and questions. Now the other part of the platform is events. So hopefully most of you are aware that we have teacher events. I'll just use the platform directly rather than here. So teacher events here. They're all completely free. Obviously at the moment they're all completely online. So we can see here the ones that are coming up before the end of term. So we've got one: data representation, API, JSON, Matplotlib. Sounds good. Object-oriented programming, and another object-oriented programming. So those are the teacher events that are available online at the moment. And then if we go to student events, obviously we're starting to get towards the end of term, so there aren't so many here now. Okay, this is nice because we can see a couple of examples here. So a booster session is aimed at all students. So if students feel like they want some extra support on something, the booster sessions are available for them. Remember, they are all online at the moment. In some ways, that probably makes them more accessible. So you can see here's one of vectors.product and Pygame. So this is a half-day session. It's obviously being held online. Masterclasses are what I'd call sort of stretch and challenge. So they tackle students who are probably working at the high end and want to really push themselves. Students who are able to do computer science at university. So these are more advanced concepts. And again, here you can see this is just 1.5 hour. And then the other type of student event that we have, but we don't have any at the moment, are these discovery sessions. And these are run by businesses. So BT has run some for us. And there'll be a range of, speakers, people talking about the careers, looking at some of their R&D work. So they're bigger sessions, and teachers can book to take, their class of students on those. So watch the space for September. Hopefully we'll, if we can all move around in groups of more than 30, there'll be a few of those coming along. We've certainly got quite a lot lined up. All of our events are run by different organisations. So they're often they could be run by hubs. So computing, school hubs that support the local community. Some of them are run by universities. So we've got agreements with many universities across the country now to deliver those sessions. So sometimes they'll use like a range of facilitators. You can always see who's facilitating the session. So if you go into the session, you can see who's running it. So a few details here. So you can see here, actually, that's my colleague. I'll talk about this in a moment. Actually, let's not look at that one. Let's look at this one here. Yeah, so you can see it's full, but this one here, so Dr. Simon Caton, Goldsmiths, University of London. But this is a masterclass, so they're often run by universities. And the other one, the one I just quickly dipped into, at the moment, we're running a pilot for both student mentoring and teacher mentoring. So I'm running the teacher mentoring sessions, and Irini, my colleague, is running the student mentoring sessions. It's a 6-week program. We're doing it once a week. So I'm actually 2/3 of the way through now with the teacher mentoring group. And Irini's about just coming up to halfway with the student group. The student mentoring is very much tackling specific groups that have been highlighted by the DFE. So these might be in more disadvantaged areas. And so they're a little bit more, it's a little bit more, you can't automatically enroll on that. You have to sort of say you want to enroll it, then we maybe do some checks and we prioritize certain students. The teacher mentoring was free for all. It was just, it's totally aimed at new teachers, so NQTs or teachers who are transitioning from GCSE to A-level, or anybody who feels, that maybe they lack the confidence to teach all aspects of A-level. And I said these are pilots at the moment, so watch this space. We should have a lot more of this next year.
Diane, there's a few comments about your events.
Yeah.
A couple of people have asked a similar question, which is whether the events will still be available online even after the lockdown. And along the same lines as that, we had some nice feedback actually, with a person from Belfast saying, please keep them online as people in Belfast can access them.
Yeah, that's great. I think oh my God, shouldn't have done that. Okay. I think like probably everyone else in the country, probably in the world, I think everybody's, been thrown into doing a lot more online than they ever had previously. And there are definitely some huge benefits of that. And I think for me, I realized that actually these events, it makes it so much easier than having to take time off from work and travel. And particularly for students as well as teachers. So I think there are some types of events where it probably is really good to be able to go. So for example, I attended a masterclass at Bletchley Park for students. So I went along to, well, my excuse was that I was doing some QA, but really I just wanted to go again. But something like that, it's obviously really good for students to actually be able to go there. But having said that, if you were in Belfast, for example, it would cost a fortune to, fly across and go to Bletchley, even though it is worth it. So yeah, I very much hope that we're going to keep online events. I think we do have some challenges over things like platform and, the number of people, and sometimes the interaction, can be tricky. But yeah, I think we're very much aware that it's a way of boosting our capacity and boosting accessibility. It's not my responsibility, but certainly when we have discussions, I will definitely feed that back. But I think we're quite well aware of it. Thank you. Are we okay for questions at the moment?
There's a couple more, but I'm just giving you a 10-minute warning as well for the
okay.
This is just a comment about the landing page for events and whether it could, this is just feedback really, to say whether it would be able to show which events are sold out.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that that event was still there actually, and then when I went on to it, it was still, so I'll feed that back.
And another couple of questions, one from Taslim. When will you restart the teacher mentoring program?
Okay, so we will, I'm going to say September, although I don't actually know the answer to that, so maybe I shouldn't say it. I'm thinking that it won't be before September because obviously the holiday period. I can't remember exactly whether it's in our work plan for September, but I think if anybody who's interested would like to get in touch, then let me know, because I think if there's a big demand, then that, we are responsive. So I think, get in touch is what I'd say. And otherwise keep an eye on the events page.
And the final question is, Andrew says he loves the questions that are there at the moment, but he's wondering if there are any plans for exam style questions to be added.
Okay, yeah, good question. I would love to write exam style questions. We are meeting with the exam boards and we've made a lot of progress with OCR in terms of them sort of kind of partnering with us. AQA are less helpful. Oh, that sounds really unpolitical, doesn't it? We haven't had as much kind of positive response from them. At the moment, we're not allowed to use questions from either, not actual questions. And obviously for the sort of more extensive written answer type questions, it's quite tricky for us to do it in terms of actually assessment. The people at Cambridge are looking at machine learning, and use of, much smarter algorithms to mark content, but we're quite a long way away from being able to actually mark a written answer. So at the moment, the answer is, you know, not in the very short term, but as a teacher, you know, ex-teacher now, I understand, you know, the demand for that. Okay, shall I move on just so we can have a really quick look? Okay, so I won't actually talk about this. You can look at this. So we have basically a student rewards program. It's part of our overall funding for the project. We have a lot of Raspberry Pis to give away. When I say a lot, a lot. So, you know, those of you that are teaching A-level students, you should really encourage your students to do this. The monthly game board challenge is just a set of 10 questions, and anybody who answers that monthly game board correctly gets put into a draw. And we have a certain number of Raspberry Pi sets to give away. Big 50 is that you have to have answered 50 questions correctly over the academic year. So obviously that's something you just kind of automatically get entered for as well. But Create Your World project, this is really fun, I think. They basically just have to come up with an idea for a project. That's something they would do with their Raspberry Pi kit. And they have to make a little video that just explains what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. There is a sample video on the page, and actually my link, if I'd had time and the volume was working, I was going to show you. But the sample video, it doesn't have to be fancy. It can literally be a little PowerPoint with them talking over it. And actually, they will automatically get a Raspberry Pi kit if they send that in, unless it breaks one of the rules. You know, so, you know, there are some rules about things being, you know, appropriate, and, you know, there's some things that they can't do. But really, any sensible project will get a Raspberry Pi kit. Obviously, we don't want to encourage people to have them who won't actually do anything with them. But if you have students that you know are techie and maybe are really bored at home and would enjoy a kit, and obviously there's loads of resources on the Raspberry Pi platform to help them get started, then encourage them to enter, you know, because we don't actually get that many entries and we have a lot of kits to give away. Okay, a little plug there. So I've already mentioned that to get some of the features of the platform, you have to register. When you first register, everybody gets what's called student access. So then as a teacher, you have to click on a little button that says, you know, upgrade my account to a teacher. Be patient, because we have to verify that you are actually a teacher at that school. And sometimes that has meant we have to phone the school. So I think the rule is that if we could find your email address, you know, you use a school email address, and there's some reference to you on their website, we can automatically verify you. Otherwise, we have to phone the school and check that you are actually a teacher at the school. And that's because of our funding agreement. So as a teacher, you can then do a load of extra things. So you can, first of all, create teaching groups. So you can set up a group and then you can invite your students to join the group. It does have to be that way around because of data protection for us. But you just send them a link and say, join my group. And then obviously you can harass the ones who haven't joined. You can share groups with other teachers at school. So obviously you co-teach or you're a subject leader, you can set up the groups. And then you can create game boards. We use the term game board just for a group of questions. Again, based on some theory that if the students see the word game, they'll think amazing. Or if you put like homework, they'll think boring. But it's the same thing. You can set game boards as assignment. We create game boards as well. And then you can view the progress and download results. So if I quickly, I just need to log in now because otherwise I won't see that. It's not that one. So I've got a student account and a teacher account. So I just go into my teacher account. Okay, so now if I go into teachers and I go into manage groups. Okay, so these are my groups. At the moment I've got teacher and student mentoring, and one that I had for a previous CAS conference. So yeah, you can see here that my groups, I can create a new group. I can set assignments. So these are game boards that I can assign. These are game boards that I've created. I can click on pre-made game boards. So these are game boards that have already been created by us. You can automatically use those. Those are just sets of questions. You can create a new game board. So like literally you could go through, you could filter, select questions, you could make them themed or random if it's for revision purposes. If you are a GCSE teacher, or you said you're setting work for the groups that are transitioning from year 11 to year 12, you could pick out those topics to set them some work to do. When you assign a game board, let's just look at searching algorithms here. Actually, I think that's the questions that are in the assignment. Let's go back a moment. You could assign it here. So you could assign it to one of your groups. So I'll assign it to that group. You can set a reminder if you want to. You can't lock it. You know, you can just set it basically. And then you have access to a mark book. I won't open them because they've actually got people's names in them, which I really should have set up a dummy one, I think. But if you open the mark book, you can see every single student in the group. You can see whether they got the question. Well, you can see whether they did it or not. So like if it's white, they haven't done it. If it's red, they did it but got it wrong. And if it's green, they did it and got it right. You can scroll through by question, and you can download their performance in a CSV file. So if you've got another system, you can obviously export the data to be used in that. And these features are only available obviously to teachers. I'll just pause in case there's any questions about that.
There's just a couple of questions about the competition that you spoke about minutes ago. I think this will have to be the final question because we've got
okay.
left. But they're both referring to whether the competition's open to GCSE students, or is it just only for A-level?
I think you have to be an A-level student. Can I come back on that, Wendy? I don't know if I can check that and get the information back. Maybe if we could capture the person who wants to know.
Yes.
Is there a way of doing that?
Yeah, certainly there is. Yeah.
Okay, and I can ask that.
Yeah, it's a couple of people, so I'll just note their names down.
Yeah. I think.
One more question to do with whether it integrates with Google Classroom at all.
No, not. You know, we haven't done anything to make it integrate. But if anybody's got any ideas and it's not too much work, then you know we can certainly look at that. Yeah, we are a small team and we can be quite responsive. So, but we do have a lot of kind of work that we're already, you know, committed to the DFE for doing. So, okay, I'm just going to progress because we're obviously. I think I've done that. I think I've talked about set assignments. I've talked about Markbook. Yes, last slide actually. So what's coming next? So more questions. So we write questions all the time. More quick questions. So we're adding more quick questions to the platform as we review content. We're going to make explainer videos. So short videos explaining content, because we have had feedback that some of it is very wordy. So we're going to try and add a bit of us explaining. Coding challenges. That's something I'm really keen on. So flagging up opportunities for students to code. Yeah, from September, workbooks, printed workbooks. If you're one of the TFE priority schools, you'll actually get class sets free. Otherwise, they're going to be sold at cost. They'll be like, I think, maximum £2 a copy. And they're printed copies of all the questions with room space to write the answers. Online mentoring I've talked about. And currently we're running user surveys. So if you've had a link to a survey, or students have, please answer, particularly if you're a teacher, because we actually haven't had many teachers answer yet. And in September, we're going to be running focus groups as well, you know, to actually get more feedback to help us improve the platform.
Brilliant, thank you. Thank you
over, sorry.
Today, no problem. And a special thanks to Diane for presenting. Please share your highlights from today's session via your social media and the CAS website. At the end of this webinar, a short survey will appear on your screen, and we'd be grateful if you take a minute to complete the survey. Additionally, in about a week's time, you'll receive an email with a CPD certificate confirming your attendance at the session. A recording of this webinar will also be available on the CAS website in the near future. And all that's left to say is, coming up next, we have a session on fake news and this afternoon some sessions on your license to copy, the AQA GCSE spec and the OBOT. We hope to see you at other sessions, and please do continue to spread the word about the first ever CAS Virtual Showcase. Thank you so much for joining, and we hope to see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.